They say you can never truly know the person who shares your bed. I used to chuckle at that idea, convinced I understood everything there was about Brooks, every scar he bore, every hidden secret, every shadow that danced in his heart. Yet, on that seemingly ordinary Tuesday afternoon, as I stepped through our front door a full 30 minutes earlier than usual, I stumbled upon the most horrifying truth of my life. The man I adored was in fact a complete stranger, and the woman he was conversing with on the phone, she knew him far better than I ever could. But here's the thing no one warns you about betrayal. It's never merely one lie. It's 1,000 tiny deceits, each one stacked precariously upon the other, forming a tower so immense that its peak is lost from view. And when it finally comes crashing down, it buries you alive beneath the rubble. I am Cynthia Morrison. No, wait, I'm Cynthia Reed now. Or am I? After everything that transpired, I can't even ascertain if my marriage was genuine enough to claim his name. What I do know is this. The moment I heard my husband weeping in our kitchen, softly uttering those 6 words into his phone, my entire world fractured into shards so minuscule that I may never find them all. I can't lie to her anymore. Those words altered everything, but not in the way you might expect. Nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for what unfolded next. That day at the office felt stifling. My supervisor, Janet, was hovering over me about the quarterly reports, and the fluorescent lights were inducing a migraine that felt like nails being driven into my skull. At 2:30 p.m., I reached my breaking point. I snatched my purse, mumbled something about a doctor's appointment, and walked out. As I stepped outside, the crisp, clean autumn air hit my face, sweeping away the stale atmosphere of the office. October in Portland had always been my favorite season. The trees lining our street were ablaze with vibrant colors, deep crimsons, burnt oranges, and golden yellows. Brooks and I had settled into our charming craftsman house 3 years ago, right after our wedding. It was the home of our dreams, adorned with blue-gray siding and white trim, complete with a porch swing where we had spent countless evenings envisioning our future together. Our future? How blissfully naive I had been. I pulled into the driveway at precisely 2:47 p.m. I recall the exact moment because I glanced at the dashboard clock, thinking how delightful it would be to surprise Brooks. He worked from home as a software developer, often sequestered in his office until I returned around 6. We could enjoy an early dinner, perhaps watch a movie, and reconnect, just like we used to before life became so overwhelmingly busy. However, the moment I opened the front door, an unsettling feeling washed over me. The house felt different somehow. The air was thick, heavy, with an indescribable weight. And then I heard it. A sound that sent chills racing through my veins. It was crying. Not the quiet sniffling one might expect, but deep, wrenching sobs that seemed to claw their way from someone's chest. Brooks, my husband, was crying. I froze in the entryway, my keys still clutched tightly in my hand. Brooks didn't cry. In our 7 years together, I had witnessed him shed tears perhaps twice, once at his father's funeral and again during our wedding vows. But this was not mere tearing up. This was the raw sound of a man unraveling. I moved silently through the living room, my heart pounding against my ribs, the sorrowful sound drawing me toward the kitchen. Each step felt as though I were wading through water, slow and dreamlike. Part of me yearned to rush to him, to offer comfort. Yet another part, a primal instinct deep within, urged me to remain silent, to listen. As I approached the doorway, I caught sight of him. Brooks was seated at our kitchen table, his back turned to me, his shoulders trembling. His phone was pressed against his ear, and the afternoon light filtering through the window glimmered on the tears streaming down his face, making them sparkle like shards of broken glass. "I know," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. "I know, baby. I'm so sorry, baby." Those words struck me like a physical blow. I had never heard him express himself in such a tone before, so tender, so raw, so intimately vulnerable. Not even with me. I can't do this anymore, he continued, running his hand through his dark hair, a gesture I recognized as a sign of stress. It's killing me every day, coming home to her, pretending everything is normal. I can't lie to her anymore. The floor beneath me felt as if it were dissolving, the walls closing in around me. I struggled to breathe, to think, to move. I love you too much, Brooks whispered. I need to tell her the truth. She deserves to know. My hand flew to my mouth, stifling the gasp that threatened to escape. Tears burned my eyes, blurring my vision. This couldn't be happening, not to us, not to me and Brooks. I'll do it tonight, he said, his voice resolute. I promise. After dinner, I'll tell her everything about us, about the baby. The word echoed in my mind like a death sentence. There was a baby. My husband had gotten another woman pregnant. I don't recall backing away from the kitchen, nor do I remember leaving the house or getting into my car. The next thing I knew, I found myself parked 3 blocks away, gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white, screaming until my throat felt raw. 7 years. 7 years of loving him, trusting him, and building a life together. And all of it had been a lie. But I couldn't allow myself to fall apart, not yet. If Brooks intended to tell me the truth tonight, that meant I had a few hours to figure out what I was going to do. I wiped away my tears, pulled out my phone, and did what any betrayed wife would do in 2023. I began gathering evidence. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Cynthia's experience of betrayal, heartbreak, and the pursuit of hard-won justice. If you believe that trust is the foundation of every relationship and that truth, no matter how painful, is always preferable to comfortable lies, please subscribe. Your support helps us share more stories of resilience, self-worth, and the courage it takes to demand honesty in a world filled with deception. Enjoy listening. I didn't return home. Instead, I drove to a downtown coffee shop, ordered a black coffee that I had no intention of drinking, and settled into a corner booth with my laptop. My hands trembled so badly that I could barely type. First, I checked our bank accounts. Brooks managed most of our finances, claiming he was better with numbers. I had been more than happy to let him take charge. What a fool I had been. The joint checking account appeared normal, but when I delved deeper into his personal account, the one he had before we got married, my stomach plummeted. There were regular transfers, $2,000 every month for the past 8 months sent to a name I didn't recognize. Violet Ashford, $16,000. He had given another woman $16,000. I typed the name into Facebook with trembling fingers. The profile was private, but the profile picture was visible. She was stunning, long auburn hair, striking green eyes, and a smile that could probably make men weak at the knees. Her cover photo captured her at a beach, laughing, looking carefree and youthful. So young. She couldn't have been more than 25. I was 34. It seemed I was already being traded in for a newer model. Next, I checked Instagram. Her account was public. Thank God for small mercies. I scrolled through snapshots of her life, pictures of coffee cups, sunsets, and inspirational quotes about new beginnings. Then I came across a photo from 3 weeks ago that made my blood run cold. It featured a pair of tiny baby shoes, white with yellow ducks adorning them. The caption read, "Can't wait to meet you, little one." The comments overflowed with congratulations. Friends asking if she had chosen a name yet, if she knew the gender, when she was due. But nowhere did anyone mention the father. I continued scrolling back through months of posts, and that's when I spotted it. A photo from 11 months ago. Violet was at a restaurant I recognized, Jep's, the Italian place that Brooks and I adored. But she wasn't alone. The image was cropped, yet I could see part of a man's hand reaching across the table to hold hers. The watch on his wrist was unmistakable, a vintage Omega with a leather strap. Brooks's watch, the one I had given him for his birthday 2 years ago. I bolted to the bathroom and vomited. When I returned, I forced myself to keep searching. I screenshot everything, the photos, the comments, the timeline. I documented the money transfers. I even checked our credit cards and discovered receipts for places I had never visited, dinners for two I had never shared, hotel rooms I had never slept in. Each piece of evidence felt like another knife plunging into my heart. Yet I pressed on because I needed to know. I had to see the entire picture of his betrayal before deciding how to dismantle his world. Then I stumbled upon something that didn't quite add up. Among Violet's Instagram photos was one from 6 months ago. She was with an older woman in what appeared to be a hospital room. The woman looked thin and frail, a scarf wrapped around her head. The caption read, "Staying strong for you, Mama. We'll beat this together." I clicked on the comments, revealing friends sending prayers and hoping the chemotherapy would be effective, asking how her mother was holding up. I leaned back, feeling bewildered. Was Brooks helping her cover her mother's treatment costs? Was that where the money was going? But that didn't explain the baby. It didn't clarify why he called her baby or professed his love for her. I wasn't going to make excuses for him. I wasn't going to search for reasons to justify this betrayal. Whatever was happening, he had lied to me. He had concealed this woman from me. He had been planning to confess tonight, which meant he knew it was wrong. I glanced at the time, 5:15. I needed to go home, to act normal, to hear whatever confession he had prepared. But I couldn't do it, not yet. I needed a plan first. I called the one person I knew would help me without asking questions, Cynthia. My sister Emma's voice was warm and familiar. "What's wrong?" The moment I heard her concern, I broke. The entire story spilled from me in gasps and sobs. The crying, the phone call, the baby, the money, the other woman, everything. "That son of Emma," hissed. "I'm coming over right now." "No," I said, wiping my eyes. "I need you to help me, but not like that. I need to be smart about this. I have to know everything before I confront him." "What do you need? Can you check his phone records? You still work for that telecom company, right?" Emma fell silent for a moment. "Cynthia, I could get fired for that. Please, I need to know who he's been talking to, how long this has been going on." Another pause, then she said, "Give me his number." While Emma worked her magic, I drove around aimlessly, trying to process everything. My mind replayed the scene in the kitchen, how he had sounded so broken, so desperate, the way he had said he couldn't lie anymore. Part of me, the foolish, still in love part, wondered if there might be an explanation. Perhaps Violet was just a friend, maybe the baby wasn't his, maybe I had misunderstood everything. But deep down, I hadn't misunderstood. "I love you," I hadn't misunderstood. I can't lie to her anymore. My phone rang. "Emma, you're not going to like this," she said. "Tell me." He's been calling and texting her number every day for the past 10 months, multiple times a day, sometimes for hours. 10 months. While I was working late, while I was planning our anniversary dinner, while I was talking about maybe starting to try for a baby of our own, he was already making one with someone else. "There's more," Emma continued. "There's another number he calls frequently, a doctor, Rebecca Wu." I looked her up. She's an oncologist at Oregon Health. That confirmed it. Violet's mother was indeed sick. But why was Brooks calling her doctor? "When's his next call scheduled with her?" I asked. "Tomorrow, 10 a.m. An idea began to form in my mind. A terrible, risky, yet potentially brilliant idea. "Emma, I need you to do something else for me." I pulled into the driveway at 6:30 p.m., my usual time. I had reapplied my makeup, fixed my hair, and practiced my normal smile in the rearview mirror. I needed to act as if everything was fine, like I didn't know my marriage was crumbling. Brooks met me at the door, and the guilt etched on his face almost shattered my resolve. His eyes were red-rimmed, his smile forced. "Hey, sweetheart," he said, kissing my cheek, the same way he had done 1,000 times before, but now it felt like a facade. Everything felt like a lie. "Hey," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "You okay? You look tired." "Just a long day, work stuff." Another lie. How many had there been? We made dinner together, just like we always did. Brooks chopped vegetables while I seasoned the chicken. We talked about my day, about Janet, about the quarterly reports, about the weather. Normal conversation, comfortable, familiar, and utterly hollow. I watched him during dinner, truly looked at him. Brooks was handsome. I had always thought so. Tall and lean, with kind brown eyes, and a smile that crinkled at the corners. He had been my best friend before he became my husband. We had met at a tech conference where I was working the registration desk. He had made a joke about my name tag being upside down, and I had laughed. Somehow that had led to coffee, then dinner, and then 7 years of my life. Had any of it been real? "Cynthia," he said suddenly, setting down his fork, "we need to talk." Here was the confession. I steeled myself. "There's something I need to tell you," he continued, his voice trembling. "Something I should have told you a long time ago." I looked at him, waiting. Part of me wanted to scream at him, to throw my wine in his face and demand answers, but I remained silent. He took a deep breath. "I've been helping someone. A woman. Her name is Violet." "A woman?" I repeated flatly. "It's not... God, this is gonna sound so bad." He ran his hair, visibly distressed. "She's young, 26, and she's pregnant. Her mother is dying of cancer, and she has no one else." "And you thought you'd step in and play hero," I said, my voice dripping with bitterness. He flinched at my tone. "I know how it looks." "Do you? Because it looks like you've been having an affair. It looks like you got another woman pregnant. It looks like you've been lying to me for months." "What? No, Cynthia, no, it's not like that at all." "Then what is it like, Brooks? Explain it to me. Explain why you're sending her thousands of dollars. Explain why you're calling her baby and telling her you love her." His face went pale. "How do you—" "I came home early today," I said, my voice cold. "I heard you on the phone. I heard everything." Brooks stood up so quickly that his chair fell backward. "Cynthia, please, let me explain. The baby, is it yours?" "No, God, no. I would never cheat on you." "Then whose is it?" He looked at me with such anguish that for a moment I almost believed him. Almost. "Mine," he whispered. I stood up, my legs trembling. "You just said not mine, like that. I'm like Cynthia. Violet is my daughter." The world stopped spinning. "You're what?" "My daughter from before I met you. I didn't know about her until 10 months ago. Her mother, a woman I dated briefly when I was 22, never told me. She raised Violet alone, and now she's dying. Violet found me, and she's pregnant and scared." I sat down heavily, my mind racing as I struggled to recalibrate everything I thought I knew. "You have a daughter?" I said slowly. "Yes, and you didn't tell me?" "I know, I'm so sorry. I didn't know how. At first, I wasn't even sure if it was true, so I got a paternity test, and when it came back positive, I was in shock. Then I met her, and she told me about her mom, about the pregnancy. It was all so overwhelming. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how." "So you just sent her money, met with her behind my back, lied to me for 10 months? I was trying to help her. She's my daughter, Cynthia. She needed me. And what about me? Did you think about what I needed? Did you think about how I'd feel being shut out of this huge part of your life?" Tears streamed down his face now. "I was scared you'd be angry, scared you'd leave, scared everything would fall apart. But keeping it secret was worse. That's why I decided to tell you tonight. I can't keep lying." I stared at him, trying to process this. He had a daughter, not a mistress. A daughter. Everything I thought was wrong. The affair, the betrayal, it was all a misunderstanding. Except it wasn't, because even if he hadn't cheated, he had still lied. He had still hidden this from me. He had still chosen to face this alone instead of trusting me with the truth. I need to see her, I said firmly. What? Violet, I need to meet her tomorrow. Brooks looked uncertain. Are you sure? Maybe we should talk more first. Process this tomorrow. Brooks set it up. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed next to Brooks, listening to his steady breathing while my mind spun with questions. He had a daughter, a 26-year-old daughter, who was about to make him a grandfather, make us grandparents. The thought was surreal. We had been trying to figure out if we wanted kids of our own, and now, suddenly, there was this fully grown adult with a baby on the way. But something still felt off. Why had he sounded so tender on the phone? Why had he said, "I love you," in that specific way? You could love your daughter, sure, but the way he'd said it. At 3 a.m., I got up and went to the spare room where I had hidden my laptop. I looked at Violet's Instagram again, studying every photo with new eyes. If she was Brooks's daughter, why weren't there any pictures of them together? Why hadn't she mentioned him at all? I scrolled back through her posts, searching for any clue. Then I found something I had missed before, a post from 9 months ago, right when she would have contacted Brooks. It was a photo of a letter. The caption read, "Sometimes the truth changes everything." The letter itself was partially visible in the photo. I zoomed in, squinting at the handwriting. "Your father's name is Brooks Reed. He never knew about you. I'm sorry I kept this from you for so long, but I thought it was best. Now that I'm sick, you deserve to know where you came from. He was a good man, Violet. I hope he still is." It was signed Mom, so Brooks's story checked out. Violet's mother had told her about him on her deathbed. He truly was her father. But I kept searching. Something was still nagging at me. I found it in a post from 3 months ago. It was a screenshot of a text message conversation. Violet had posted it with the caption, "When your person just gets you." The texts were mundane, discussing a movie and making dinner plans. But at the top of the screenshot, I could see the contact name, Brooks Blue. Not dad, not father, just Brooks with a blue heart. My stomach twisted. Maybe she hadn't adjusted to calling him dad yet. Perhaps it felt too strange after growing up without him. Or maybe I was just being paranoid. Brooks had explained everything. There was a paternity test. This was his daughter. But at 10 a.m., I was going to find out for sure. The next morning, Brooks was a nervous wreck. He changed his shirt 3 times, rehearsed what he was going to say, and kept asking if I was sure I wanted to do this. "I'm sure," I told him firmly. We were supposed to meet Violet at a cafe near the hospital where her mother was being treated. At 9:45, we got in the car. Brooks was silent during the drive, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Whatever happens," I said quietly, "we get through this together." "Okay." He looked at me with such relief and love that I felt a wave of doubting him. "Okay," he whispered, but I had one more card to play. Emma was already at the hospital, posing as a pharmaceutical rep, ready to casually run into Dr. Wu and ask a few questions about her patient. We arrived at the cafe at 10:02, and there she was. Violet Ashford was even more beautiful in person. She sat at a corner table, one hand resting gently on her very pregnant belly, her auburn hair catching the morning light. When she saw Brooks, her face lit up with a smile that sent a chill through me, because I recognized that smile. I had given Brooks that same smile 1,000 times. That wasn't the smile of a daughter seeing her father. It was the smile of a woman in love. Brooks didn't seem to notice. He walked over to her, and she stood up carefully, supporting her belly, and hugged him. The embrace lingered a few seconds too long. Violet, Brooks said, pulling back. This is my wife, Cynthia. Violet's smile dimmed slightly as she turned her gaze toward me. It's nice to finally meet you, she said, extending her hand. I shook it, studying her face. Likewise, I replied, as we sat down. An awkward silence enveloped the table. So, I said, deciding to dive right in. Brooks told me everything. This must be a lot for you, too. Violet looked at Brooks, then back at me. It has been, finding out about all of this, but I'm grateful. Brooks has been amazing through everything. I'm sorry about your mother, I continued. How is she doing? Not well, Violet said softly. The cancer is stage 4. They're keeping her comfortable now, Violet said, but her voice trailed off as tears filled her eyes. Brooks reached across the table, taking her hand in his. He's strong. She's still fighting. The tenderness in his voice made my chest feel tight. And the baby? I asked, glancing at her belly. When are you due? 6 weeks, Violet replied, placing her hand over her stomach. Do you have a name picked out? I inquired, noticing her glance at Brooks. We were thinking Grace. We? I echoed, feeling a pang in my heart. That's beautiful, I said, my voice steady, even as my heart shattered. And the father? Is he involved? The question hung in the air like a ticking bomb. Violet's face went pale, and Brooks's grip tightened around her hand. It's complicated, Violet said softly. I'm sure it is, I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. What does he do? Where did you meet? Brooks interjected, his voice laced with warning. Maybe we should... My phone buzzed, interrupting him. It was a text from Emma. Spoke to Dr. Wu. Violet's mother is not her mother. Patient name is Linda Ashford. Violet is Linda's granddaughter. Her parents died in a car crash when she was 4. Linda raised her. Dr. Wu mentioned how sad it is that Violet is going through this pregnancy alone. No mention of Brooks at all. I looked up from my phone, my mind reeling. Violet's parents were dead. So who was the woman who wrote that letter? Who told her Brooks was her father? Unless there never was a letter. Excuse me, I said, standing up. I need to use the restroom. I walked away on shaking legs, but instead of heading to the bathroom, I stepped outside and called Emma. What else did you find out? I demanded. The grandmother has been in hospice for 3 weeks. Before that, she was in and out of consciousness from the pain meds. Cynthia, I don't think she could have told Violet about Brooks, and even if she had, how would she know him? I did some digging. Brooks had lived in Seattle until he was 25, while Violet was born in Portland. They had never even lived in the same city. My vision darkened at the edges. Emma, I need you to do something else. Can you pull up the paternity test? Brooks mentioned it. How would I... He has a file in his computer labeled Important Docs. The password is our anniversary. Can you access it remotely? If he's on the same Wi-Fi network, maybe. Give me 10 minutes. I went back inside, my mind racing. Brooks and Violet were talking quietly, their heads close together. When I sat down, they quickly pulled apart. Everything okay? Brooks asked, concern etched on his face. Fine, I lied. So, Violet, tell me how you found Brooks. How did you know how to reach him? She hesitated. My grandmother, before she got really sick, told me about him. She gave me his contact information. That's interesting, I said casually. Because when did your grandmother go into hospice? Violet's eyes widened. About 3 weeks ago. Why? And when did you first contact Brooks? 10 months ago, Brooks answered, confusion evident in his voice. Why does this matter? Because, I said, my voice cold as ice, according to her doctor, your mother has been barely conscious for the past month. So unless she gave you Brooks's information from beyond the grave, someone's lying. The color drained from Violet's face. Who are you? I asked quietly. And what do you want from my husband? The cafe seemed to freeze. Brooks looked between Violet and me, confusion written all over his face. "Cynthia, what are you talking about?" he asked, confusion evident in his voice. But I kept my eyes fixed on Violet. She was trapped, and she knew it. I could see her mind racing, desperately trying to spin this. "I don't know what you think you found," Violet said, her voice trembling. "But my grandmother did tell me about Brooks before she got really bad." "Show me," I demanded. "Show me the letter, the documents, anything that proves Brooks is your father." "I don't have to prove anything to you," she shot back, some of her fear morphing into anger. "Actually, you do, because my husband has been giving you thousands of dollars, spending hours on the phone with you, hiding your relationship from me. So yes, you absolutely have to prove that you're who you say you are." Brooks stood up, his expression a mixture of alarm and frustration. "Cynthia, stop it. I had a paternity test done." "Where's the test?" I asked him sharply. "Show it to me right now." "It's at home in my files." "No, it's not," I countered, my heart racing. My phone buzzed with another text from Emma. "There is no paternity test in your files. There are no medical records, no lab results, nothing." Brooks pulled out his phone, his hands trembling as he opened his files, scrolling frantically. "It was here. I swear it was here." "Violet, you sent it to me. Remember the results from that lab in Eugene?" Violet was crying now, real tears streaming down her face. Yet she wasn't denying anything. "What lab?" I pressed. "What's the name of it?" Violet's lips trembled as she looked at Brooks with such desperation that I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Brooks, I can explain," she started. "What lab, Violet?" Brooks interrupted, his voice now hard and unyielding. He was finally grasping what I have seen all along. "Tell me the name of the lab that did the paternity test." She couldn't answer, because there was no lab. There was no test. "Oh my God," Brooks breathed, sinking back into his chair, disbelief washing over him. "Oh my God, it was all fake." "No, Brooks, please, just listen." "Who are you?" His shout made everyone in the cafe turn to look at us, but he didn't care. "Who the hell are you, and why have you been lying to me?" Violet's face crumpled. She wrapped her arms protectively around her belly, and for a brief moment I saw her clearly, not as a seductress or a con artist, but as a terrified young woman who had gotten in way over her head. "My name is Violet Ashford," she said quietly. "That part is true. And my grandmother is dying. That's true too. Everything I told you about her cancer, about me being alone, it's all true, except for the part about Brooks being your father," I stated firmly. She nodded, tears spilling onto the table. "But Brooks looked like he'd been shot. Why? Why would you do this?" "Because I needed help," Violet whispered, her voice breaking. "My grandmother's medical bills are crushing me. I'm barely making minimum wage at the grocery store. I'm pregnant and alone, and the baby's father took off the second he found out. I was drowning, and I didn't know what else to do." "So you chose my husband?" I asked sharply. "Out of everyone in the world, you targeted him?" Violet's eyes met mine, and what I saw there made my blood run cold. It wasn't just desperation. It was calculation. I chose carefully. "What does that mean?" Brooks demanded, his voice tight with confusion. "It means," a new voice interjected from behind us, "that my daughter is smarter than you gave her credit for." We all turned to see a woman approaching, in her late 50s, thin but not frail, with the same auburn hair as Violet. She wasn't wearing a hospital gown, nor was she connected to any machines. She looked perfectly healthy. "Grandma," Violet said, but there was no surprise in her tone. "Hello, Brooks," the woman said, sliding into the empty chair at our table. "It's been a long time." Brooks stared at her, his expression a mix of confusion and disbelief. "Do I know you?" "Oh, you don't remember?" The woman's smile was bitter. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. It was only one night to you after all, but it was enough to destroy my daughter's life. And then I saw it, in the shape of her eyes, the curve of her mouth. This woman resembled Brooks, not strikingly, but enough to make the connection undeniable. Linda, Brooks breathed, the name surfacing like a ghost from the past. Linda Ashford. Actually, it's Linda Reed, she corrected, her tone sharp. Or it was for about 3 years. I was married to your brother. The world tilted sideways. What? Brooks and I echoed in unison. Your brother, Tyler Reed, Linda continued, her voice laced with venom. We got married when I was 22 and he was 25. He was charming, successful, everything I'd ever wanted. And then I got pregnant with my daughter, Catherine. I don't understand, Brooks said, his brow furrowing. Tyler lives in Boston. He's been married to Jennifer for 15 years. They have 2 kids. Oh, I know all about Jennifer, spat. She's wife number 2. I was wife number 1. The one he erased from his history. The one he left when our daughter was just 6 months old. He said I'd trapped him, that he was too young to be a father. He filed for divorce, hired a fancy lawyer, and ensured that I received almost nothing in the settlement. Then he moved across the country and pretended we never existed. I was trying to process this revelation. Brooks had a brother named Tyler. They had been close when they were younger, but over the years they had drifted apart. Brooks rarely spoke of him. I had met Tyler maybe twice in 7 years. That's terrible, Brooks said, his voice heavy with sympathy. And I'm sorry that happened to you. But what does any of this have to do with me? I didn't even know Tyler was married before Jennifer. Of course you didn't, Linda replied sharply, because your precious brother never told anyone in the family about me. He was ashamed of us. But I never forgot. And when my daughter Catherine died in that car accident 4 years ago, leaving Violet orphaned at just 22, I made a promise to myself. The Reed family was going to pay for what they took from us. The pieces were clicking into place, but the picture they formed was uglier than I could have ever imagined. You're not sick, I said to Linda, my voice steady. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, she replied, her tone flat. Diagnosed 4 months ago. I'm not in hospice yet, but I will be soon, which means I'm running out of time to make this right for my granddaughter. Make what right? Brooks demanded, confusion etched on his face. You've been scamming me, lying to me for 10 months. You owe us. Linda's voice rose, her calm facade cracking. Your brother destroyed my life. He abandoned his daughter. That money you gave Violet, that's just a fraction of what Tyler should have paid in child support. It's a fraction of what we deserved. So, you decided to catfish my husband? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. Pretend to be his daughter so he'd give you money? It was easy, Violet said, finally speaking up since her grandmother's arrival. She wasn't crying anymore. Her expression was hard, defiant. I found Brooks on Facebook. I saw he lived in Portland. I saw he was successful. I saw that you two looked happy. It made me sick. Tyler's brother living this perfect life while my mom was dead and I was pregnant. So you invented a story? Created a fake paternity test? It looked real, didn't it? Violet interrupted. I have a friend who works in a lab. He helped me create the document. I sent it to Brooks from a burner email. He believed it immediately because he wanted to believe it. He wanted to be the good guy who steps up for his long-lost daughter. Brooks's face turned gray. The phone calls, he whispered. The things I told you. The way you'd cry about your mother dying, about being scared of raising the baby alone. All true, Violet replied. I just let you think you were my father. Let you think you had some obligation to save me. And you did, didn't you? $16,000. It paid for Grandma's treatment, for my rent, for baby supplies. You fixed everything, just like I knew you would." "You manipulated him," I said. "You preyed on his guilt and his desire to do the right thing. That's not just a scam, that's psychological abuse." "Call it whatever you want," Linda said, rising to her feet as well. "We got what we needed." And honestly, we would have just disappeared after the baby came. You never would have known the truth, but you couldn't leave well enough alone, could you? She glared at me, her eyes fierce. "Did you really think you'd get away with this?" "We already have," Violet replied, placing her hand protectively on her belly. "What are you going to do? Call the police and tell them what? That Brooks willingly gave me money? That he chose to help someone he thought was his daughter? We didn't steal anything. We didn't forge any checks. We just let him believe what he wanted to believe." She was right, and I knew it. Brooks had given her the money voluntarily. The fake paternity test was indeed evidence of fraud, but was it enough to prosecute? And did we really want to drag this through the courts? Expose Brooks's private life? Make this public? "I want my money back," Brooks said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Linda laughed, a cold, mocking sound. "It's gone. Medical bills, rent, food, all gone. But sure, take us to court. Drag yourself through the mud trying to get blood from a stone. By the time you win, if you win, I'll be dead and Violet will be a struggling single mother. Good luck getting anything from her." They turned to leave, convinced they had won, but they didn't know me. They didn't realize that I had spent the last 24 hours planning for every contingency. They didn't know that Emma wasn't just at the hospital, gathering information. She was also serving legal papers. Violet Ashford, a man in a suit, appeared at her elbow. "You've been served." He handed her a manila envelope and walked away. Violet opened it with trembling hands, her face going pale as she read. "What is this?" "That," I said, "is a lawsuit. Not for fraud, not for the money, but for parental fraud. You see, in Oregon, if you falsely claim someone is the father of your child and receive material support based on that false claim, the victim can sue for emotional distress and intentional infliction of emotional harm. And unlike criminal court, civil court has a much lower burden of proof." "You can't," I interrupted firmly, "and I will. You wanted to play games with my family? Fine, let's play. Let's drag this through civil court, where we'll depose you, your grandmother, and your friend who made the fake test. Let's put every detail of your lives under a microscope. Let's see how that goes." Linda's confident smile vanished, replaced by a look of concern. "You're bluffing. That lawsuit will cost you thousands." "I have thousands," I replied, my resolve unwavering. "Unlike you, I actually work for my money, and I'm willing to spend every penny I have to ensure you pay for this." "Why?" Violet asked, her voice genuinely confused. "Why do you care so much? You got what you wanted. You know the truth now. Brooks is yours, not mine. We're nothing to you." "You're right," I said. "You are nothing to me. But what you did to my husband, making him believe he had a daughter, letting him bond with you, letting him love you, and then ripping it all away, that's unforgivable." I looked at Brooks. He sat with his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking. He was crying again, but this time I understood why. He had loved Violet. In just 10 months, he had genuinely come to love this woman he believed was his daughter. He'd envisioned a future with her, a granddaughter to spoil and a relationship to nurture, and it was all a lie. "You're monsters," I told them, my voice steady and resolute. "Please," Violet pleaded, and now she was crying too. These were real tears, not the manipulative ones she'd likely been using on Brooks for months. "Please, I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt him this badly." "But you did," I replied sharply, "and now you're going to pay for it." We left the cafe in silence. Brooks didn't speak during the drive home. He didn't utter a word when we entered the house. He simply walked straight to our bedroom and closed the door behind him. I wanted to comfort him, to hold him and assure him that everything would be okay, but I was consumed by fury, not at him, but at them, at Violet and Linda and everyone who thought they could shatter someone's life without facing any consequences. I called Emma. "Did you see it go down?" I asked. "I was watching from across the street," she confirmed. "That was brutal. How's Brooks?" "Broken," I admitted. "Emma, I need your help with something else. I need to know everything about Linda and Violet Ashford. Bank records, employment history, social media, everything." "Cynthia, this is starting to feel like stalking." "It's not stalking. It's due diligence for our lawsuit. We need evidence that this was premeditated fraud. Can you help me or not?" Emma sighed. "You know I can't resist a good revenge plot. Give me until tomorrow morning." While Emma dug into the Ashfords' lives, I began my own investigation. I sifted through every text message Brooks had exchanged with Violet over the past 10 months. He'd given me permission to access his phone, too devastated to care about privacy anymore. The messages made me feel physically ill. Violet had been so adept at playing her role. She'd sent him photos of ultrasounds, likely stolen from the internet. She'd called him at just the right moments when she knew he'd be alone, crafting the illusion of a special secret relationship. She'd sought his advice on baby names, on whether she was making the right choice by keeping the pregnancy. And Brooks had responded with such love, such genuine care. He'd sent her articles about pregnancy nutrition, recommended pediatricians, and shared stories about his own childhood, his hopes and dreams, things he'd never even confided in me. That hurt more than if he had actually cheated, because at least an affair would have been about physical intimacy, a fleeting moment of weakness. This was emotional closeness. This was him opening his heart to someone who was simply using him. I stumbled upon a voice message from 3 months ago. Violet was sobbing, expressing her fears about not knowing if she could manage this alone. And Brooks's response was unwavering. "You're not alone. You have me now. I'm your dad, and I'm not going anywhere. I promise." I closed the phone and cried. Around midnight, Brooks finally emerged from the bedroom. His eyes were red and swollen. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "You didn't do anything wrong," I reassured him. "I lied to you for 10 months. I hid an entire relationship from you. I let that woman manipulate me." "You thought she was your daughter," I said gently. "You thought you were doing the right thing." "I was an idiot." "No, you were kind. You have a good heart, and she weaponized it against you." I stood up and walked over to him, wrapping my arms around him. "This isn't your fault, Brooks." "None of this is your fault," I assured him, and we remained in that embrace for a long time. "What happens now?" he finally asked, his voice a mix of curiosity and concern. "Now," I replied, determination lacing my words, "we make them regret ever targeting our family." The next morning, Emma arrived at our door, her arms full of a laptop and a manila folder thick with documents. "You're not going to believe what I found," she said, spreading the papers across our kitchen table. Brooks and I took a seat, and Emma began her presentation as if she were delivering a corporate briefing. Linda Ashford, 57, currently unemployed. She was married to Tyler Reed from 1989 to 1992. They had one daughter, Catherine, born in 1990. Tyler did file for divorce, and the settlement was minimal. That part checks out. Linda raised Catherine as a single mother, juggling various retail jobs. "What about the cancer?" I inquired, my heart racing. "That's real too. She was diagnosed 4 months ago with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She's been undergoing chemotherapy at Oregon Health, but the prognosis is poor, 6 months to a year, according to her medical records." "How did you get her medical records?" Brooks asked, eyebrows raised. Emma simply smiled. "Let's say I have friends in low places." Now, here's where it gets interesting. Linda's been bitter about Tyler for decades. She's posted about him on social media, always careful not to use his name, but making it clear she feels wronged by her ex-husband. She joined single mother support groups and online forums where she vented about deadbeat dads. So she's been nursing this grudge for 30 years. Exactly, I said, my mind racing. Her daughter Catherine married young, had Violet at 21, and then tragically died with her husband in a car accident when Violet was just 4. Linda raised Violet alone, just as she had raised Catherine. And Violet grew up hearing stories about the evil Reed family that abandoned them, Brooks said quietly, realization dawning on him. So this was always about revenge, he added. Wait, it gets better, Emma continued, her eyes gleaming with the thrill of discovery. 6 months ago, right before Linda's cancer diagnosis, Violet got pregnant. The father is a guy named Justin Cole, 28, who works in construction. They'd been dating for about a year. When Violet told him she was pregnant, he broke up with her and moved to California. So Violet really was left alone and desperate. I nodded. Right. And that's when Linda hatched the plan. She'd been following your lives on social media for years, Brooks. She knew where you worked, where you lived, and that you were married. She saw that you and Tyler had drifted apart, that you might not even know about his first marriage, so she concocted this elaborate scheme. Emma pulled out more documents. This is the friend who created the fake paternity test. Melissa Chong works as a lab tech at a fertility clinic. She's also been friends with Violet since high school. And here are her bank records showing that Violet paid her $500 for producing the fake document. That's conspiracy to commit fraud, I said, my anger simmering. That's evidence, Emma corrected. Here's more. Violet spent 2 months researching Brooks before she ever reached out to him. She joined groups he was in online, learned about his interests and values. She crafted her entire persona to be exactly the kind of daughter he'd want. Brooks looked sick. How did she even contact me the first time? Emma pulled up a screenshot of a Facebook message. She said she was your daughter from a relationship you probably didn't remember. She included a photo of her mother, Catherine, and claimed she just found out before her grandmother got sick. She sounded scared, vulnerable, and desperately in need of a father figure. And I fell for it, Brooks whispered, his voice filled with regret. Anyone would have, I reassured him, trying to ease his guilt. She did her homework. She knew exactly what buttons to push. There's more, Emma interjected. Linda has been telling everyone she knows about the plan. She posted in a private Facebook group for cancer patients about how she was making things right before she died. She didn't use names, but she talked about getting justice for her daughter and granddaughter. Can we use that? I asked, my mind racing. Absolutely. It shows premeditation. This wasn't a desperate act in the moment. This was calculated, planned revenge. What about the $16,000? Brooks inquired, his brow furrowed with concern. Can we prove what they spent it on? Emma nodded. Most of it went to medical bills, like they said, but about $4,000 was spent on non-essential purchases. New furniture for Violet's apartment, a vacation to the coast, expensive baby items. Not exactly life or death stuff. So they were living it up on Brooks's guilt money, I said. Basically. Oh, and here's the kicker, Emma said, pulling out one more document with a flourish. I found Linda's will. She had it updated 2 months ago. Want to know what it says? We both leaned in, anticipation building. She's leaving everything to Violet, obviously, but there's a note in the will that says, and I quote, I hope the Reed family's money helps you raise this baby the way their family should have helped raise you and your mother. May they rot in hell for what they did to us. She put that in her will. Brooks looked stunned. Apparently, she wanted to make sure her bitterness outlived her, Emma said dryly. I sat back, processing all of this. We had evidence. We had motive. We had a clear pattern of fraud and manipulation laid out before us, yet something still gnawed at my mind. Emma, what happened to Tyler's daughter? Catherine, you said she died in a car accident, but what about her relationship with Tyler? Did he ever try to contact her? Emma's face darkened, a shadow crossing her features. That's the truly sad part. I found court records from when Catherine was 16. He tried to reach out. Tyler wanted to meet her. Linda had to approve it since Catherine was a minor, but Tyler refused to meet her. He sent a letter through his lawyer stating he'd signed away his parental rights years ago and had no interest in a relationship. Oh, God, I breathed, feeling the weight of the revelation. Catherine was devastated. According to some old blog posts Linda made, she fell into a depression and started therapy. The rejection really messed her up, and 2 years later, she was dead. So Linda blames Tyler not just for abandoning her, but for contributing to Catherine's emotional struggles. And by extension, she blames the entire Reed family. In her mind, if Tyler had been a father to Catherine, maybe she would have been more stable, made better choices, and not ended up dead at 34. It's not logical, but grief and anger rarely are. Brooks stood up abruptly and walked to the window, his back turned to us. "Brooks," I said softly. "Tyler is a piece of work," he said. "I always knew he was selfish and cold, but this... He abandoned a child, his own daughter, and when she reached out to him, he rejected her again." He turned to face us, tears glistening in his eyes. "Linda is right to hate him. I hate him. That doesn't make what she did to you okay," I said firmly. "I know, but I understand it now. She couldn't get revenge on Tyler, so she went after me, the brother who didn't stop him, who didn't even know about Catherine, who lived his happy life while her family suffered." "You can't take on Tyler's sins," I told him, trying to reason with him. "But I can make them right," Brooke said, and in that moment, I saw a shift in his eyes, determination replacing the heartbreak that had once clouded them. "I can do what Tyler should have done." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I want to drop the lawsuit." "What? No!" I exclaimed, rising to my feet. "Brooks, they scammed you. They broke your heart. They deserve to face consequences." "They do," he agreed. "But Violet is still pregnant. Linda is still dying. Making them pay won't change what Tyler did to them. It'll just add more suffering to an already tragic story." "So you're just going to let them get away with it?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "No, I'm going to offer them a deal." I thought Brooks had lost his mind. After everything Violet and Linda had done, he wanted to help them? But as he explained his plan, I began to see the genius in it, and the revenge. "We're going to visit them," Brooke said, "at Linda's house, and we're going to make them an offer they can't refuse." The next day, we showed up at Linda's small rental house in a rundown part of Portland. The yard was overgrown, the paint was peeling, and I could see why they'd been so desperate for money. Violet answered the door, her eyes wary. "What do you want to talk about?" Brooks said calmly, "No lawyers, no recording devices, just a conversation." She hesitated, not wanting to let us in, but Linda called from inside. "Let them in, Violet." Let's hear what they have to say. The interior of the house was clean, yet sparse, worn furniture and outdated appliances, the kind of place where people lived paycheck to paycheck. Linda was sitting in a recliner, a blanket draped over her legs despite the warmth of the day. She looked thinner than she had at the cafe, more fragile. The cancer was consuming her. "Nice place," I remarked, not bothering to mask my sarcasm. "Say what you came to say," Linda replied, her tone sharp. Brooks settled into a chair across from her, while I stood behind him, arms crossed, bracing myself for the confrontation. "I spoke to my brother," Brooks began, his voice steady. Linda's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of concern crossing her features. "Tyler knows about this. He knows everything. I called him yesterday and told him about you, about Catherine, about Violet. I explained what you did to me and why you did it." Linda's voice was defiant, yet I could detect a tremor beneath the surface. "And he doesn't care," she said, her bravado faltering. "He said, and I quote, 'That's not my problem. I made my choice 30 years ago, and I stand by it.'" Violet gasped at the revelation. He said that even knowing about the baby? Even knowing about the baby, Brooks confirmed, his anger simmering. Tyler is a selfish bastard who doesn't deserve to be called a father or a grandfather. But you already knew that, so why are you here? Linda asked, her skepticism evident. To rub it in? To tell us that we wasted our revenge on the wrong Reed? No, Brooks replied firmly. I'm here to offer you a deal, a real one, not the scam you pulled on me. He pulled out a document from his bag and laid it on the coffee table. This is a contract. If you sign it, I will drop the lawsuit against you. I will also give Violet $50,000 for the baby, which will be placed in a trust fund that releases monthly payments for childcare, medical expenses, and education. Violet's hands flew to her mouth, shock evident on her face. Linda leaned forward, her expression suspicious. "What's the catch?" she asked, her tone guarded. "Several catches," I interjected, finally speaking up. "First, you must publicly admit what you did, a written confession detailing the fake paternity test, the manipulation, all of it. We'll keep it private unless you ever attempt to contact Brooks or anyone in the Reed family again." Second, Brooks continued, Violet goes to therapy, real therapy, funded by the trust to address her family history and learn how to be a better person than her grandfather. Third, I added, you both sign a non-disclosure agreement. You will never speak publicly about Brooks, about this situation, about any of it. You take the money and you disappear from our lives forever. And fourth, Brooks said, his voice now firm, when Linda dies, and I'm sorry to be blunt, but we all know it's coming, I want to be named as Violet's emergency contact. Not to be her father figure, not to have a relationship, but if something happens, if she needs help, she can call me once. I'll decide if I want to help or not. Linda and Violet exchanged glances, engaging in a silent conversation. "Why would you do this?" Violet finally asked, her voice trembling. "Because," Brooks replied, "Catherine deserved better. She deserved a father who loved her, who supported her, who was there for her. Tyler failed her. And while I can't change the past, I can ensure his granddaughter has the support his daughter never received." Not because you deserve it, Violet, but because that baby deserves to have someone in the Reed family who genuinely cares. Tears streamed down Violet as she whispered, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you like this. I was so angry. Grandma said this was justice, and I didn't think about you as a real person, just as a symbol of everything that had gone wrong in our lives." "I know," Brooks replied quietly, his voice steady, "and I understand. But understanding doesn't mean I can trust you. This offer comes with strict boundaries. You take the money, you get help, and you leave us alone forever. If you violate any part of this agreement, I will take you to court and I will destroy you. I have the resources, the evidence, and the motivation. Do you understand?" Violet nodded, still crying, her emotions spilling over. Linda remained silent for a long moment, studying Brooks's face intently. "You really are nothing like your brother," she finally said. "No," Brooks agreed, "I'm not." "Catherine would have liked you," Linda said softly, and for the first time I saw genuine emotion in her eyes, not anger or bitterness, but grief. She just wanted a father to love her. That's all she ever wanted. "Then let me give her granddaughter what she never had," Brooks said earnestly. "Let me be the Reed family member who doesn't abandon a child." Linda reached for the contract with trembling hands, reading through it carefully, her lips moving silently. Then she looked at Violet. "It's your choice, honey," she said. "I'll be gone soon. This is your life, your future. Whatever you decide, I'll support you." Violet glanced at the document, then at Brooks, then at me. "Can I ask one more thing?" "What?" I asked, my voice icy. Can I know why you're really doing this? Because I don't believe it's just charity. You're angry. I can see it. So, what's the real reason? I smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. You want to know the real reason? Fine, I'll tell you. The real reason is that this way you have to live with what you did. If we sued you, you could play the victim, the poor single mother attacked by the wealthy couple. But this way, you have to accept charity from the man you tried to destroy. Every month when that trust payment comes through, you'll remember that you earned that money by breaking a good man's heart. Every time your daughter asks where the money came from, you'll have to live with the lie. You wanted to make Brooks pay for his brother's sins. Well, now you'll spend the rest of your life paying for your own. Violet flinched as though I'd slapped her. And the best part, I continued, leaning in closer, every single person in your life will think Brooks is a saint for helping you. They'll never know the truth. You'll never be able to tell your side of the story, never be able to justify what you did. You'll just have to smile and say thank you and live with the guilt. That's the real revenge, not destroying you, but reforming you, making you into a decent person despite yourself. Linda started laughing, a dry, rattling sound. "You're vicious," she said to me. "I like you." "I don't care if you like me," I replied. "I care that you sign that contract and get out of our lives." Linda picked up the pen. "Where do I sign?" 2 hours later, we left the house with signed contracts, written confessions, and the knowledge that we'd triumphed, not through cruelty or revenge, but through something far more powerful, strategic kindness that would haunt them forever. In the car, Brooks remained quiet. "Are you okay?" I asked, glancing over at him. "I don't know," he admitted, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. "Part of me feels good about doing the right thing for that baby, but part of me still feels so angry and hurt. That's normal. They did hurt you badly." "I really thought I had a daughter," he said. "For 10 months, I believed it. I let myself love her, and it was all fake." "Not all of it," I said gently. "Your love was real. Your desire to be a good father was real. Violet and Linda may have been lying, but your feelings were genuine. That matters." "Does it? Because it still feels like I was an idiot." "You were trusting. There's a difference," I replied, taking his hand. "We're going to get through this together. You, me, the real family." He squeezed my hand. "I don't deserve you." "Yes, you do, and you're going to spend the rest of our lives proving it." He smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him in days. Deal. 3 weeks passed. Brooks threw himself into work, trying to move past the betrayal. I watched him carefully, looking for signs that he was falling into depression, but he seemed to be processing it healthily. We started couples therapy to work through the trust issues and communication problems that had allowed this to happen in the first place. Then, on a rainy Thursday afternoon, my phone rang, an unknown number. "Hello?" The voice was weak, strained. "It's Violet." My body tensed. "What do you want?" "You're violating the contract by calling me," I said, my voice steady. I know. Please just listen. It's my grandmother. She's dying, like right now, and she's asking for Brooks." I almost hung up, almost told her to deal with it herself. But something in her voice stopped me. "Why does she want to see him?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. "I don't know. Please, she doesn't have much time. I know we don't deserve any more kindness from you, but she's my grandmother, and this is her dying wish." I glanced across the room at Brooks, who was focused on his laptop. Did I really want to put him through more pain? Did Linda deserve to see him before she died? But this wasn't about what Linda deserved. It was about who Brooks was. He was the kind of man who would regret not answering a dying woman's call. "We'll be there in 30 minutes, I said, my decision made. Brooks looked up in surprise when I relayed the message. "She wants to see me? Why?" I don't know, but you'll regret it if you don't go. We drove to Oregon Health in silence. The hospice ward was quiet, peaceful in that eerie way hospitals are when people are actively dying. Violet met us in the hallway, looking exhausted, her pregnant belly even larger than before. "Thank you," she said quietly. "She's in room 304. She's not very coherent. The pain medication is pretty strong, but she keeps asking for Brooks." Brooks squared his shoulders and walked into the room. I followed, staying near the door. Linda looked nothing like the woman we'd seen 3 weeks ago. She was skeletal, her skin a grayish hue, her breathing labored. But when she saw Brooks, her eyes focused. "You came," she rasped, her voice barely above a whisper. "I came," Brooks confirmed, settling into the chair next to her bed. "I needed to tell you." Linda struggled for breath, her words punctuated by labored gasps. "It's okay," Brooks said gently. "You don't have to." "Let me finish," she interrupted, surprising him with her strength. "Catherine wanted a father like you. Research Tyler found you were a good man. She wanted to contact you to ask if you'd be her father instead of him." Brooks went very still, processing her words. "What?" "Before she died, she found you on the internet, wrote you a letter, never sent it, too scared. I found it in her things." Linda's shaking hand reached for the bedside table. Violet stepped forward, pulling out an envelope that was yellowed with age. She handed it to Brooks, who took it with trembling fingers. With a deep breath, he opened the envelope. Inside was a letter written in looping handwriting. He began to read aloud, his voice breaking with emotion. "Dear Uncle Brooks, you don't know me, but I'm your niece, Catherine Reed. My father is your brother, Tyler, but he doesn't want me. He never did. I've tried to contact him, but he says I'm not his daughter anymore, that he signed away his rights. I don't know if you know about me or not. Dad probably never mentioned me, but I found you online, and I've been reading about your life. You seem like a good person. You seem like the kind of man who would have been a good father if you'd had the chance. I know this is crazy. I know I'm just some random teenager and you have your own life. But I was wondering, could I maybe meet you? Just once. I just want to know what it's like to have someone from my father's family acknowledge that I exist. I'm sorry if this is too much." My mom says I shouldn't reach out, that the Reed family doesn't want us, but I had to try. I had to know if maybe somewhere in that family there was someone who might care about me. If you don't want to respond, I understand, but if you do, I'll be waiting. Your niece, Catherine. The letter was dated 2 months before her death. Brooks looked up at Linda, tears streaming down his face. She never sent this? Linda shook her head, too scared of rejection. After Tyler, she couldn't risk it again. Then she died, and I found it. It made me so angry. If you'd known, maybe she would have had something to live for. "You blamed me?" Brooks whispered, his voice barely audible. "All this time you blamed me for not being there for her when I never even knew she existed?" "I know, it was wrong of me, but grief makes you crazy. It made me want revenge. I wanted the Reed family to hurt like we hurt." "So you used Violet to hurt me?" "Yes, but then you were kind. You loved her like you would have loved Catherine. And I saw..." Linda's breathing was getting worse. "I saw that I was wrong. Tyler is a monster, but you're good, like Catherine thought." She reached out a skeletal hand. Brooks took it gently. "I'm sorry," Linda wheezed. "So sorry. Catherine would hate what I did. She wouldn't want revenge. She'd want forgiveness." "I forgive you," Brooks said, and I could hear the sincerity in his voice. "I forgive you, Linda." "Thank you," she breathed. "Tell Violet, be better than me. Let go of the anger." "I will," Brooks promised. Linda's eyes found mine. "You do, Cynthia. Take care of him. He's one of the good ones." I know, I said, my own tears falling now. Linda smiled just a little. Then her eyes closed. The heart monitors beeped more slowly, then fell silent. She was gone. Violet collapsed into a chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Nurses entered the room, checking vitals and officially calling the time of death. The atmosphere filled with quiet, efficient movement as reality set in. Brooks stood up, still clutching Catherine's letter. He looked at me, his expression heavy with regret. I could have known her, he said. If she had just sent the letter, I could have known my niece. I would have loved her. I know, I replied, wrapping my arm around him in comfort. Tyler destroyed so many lives. Catherine, Linda, Violet, and for what? Because he didn't want to be inconvenienced by a child he created? Some people are just broken, and they break everyone around them. Brooks turned to Violet, who was still crying. You okay? She looked up at him, her face blotchy and swollen. She was all I had, and now she's gone. I'm going to be a mother in a few weeks, and I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm so scared. Brooks hesitated, then sat down beside her. You're going to be okay. You have the trust fund. You're going to get therapy, and you're going to be a better mother than you had, a better person than your grandmother was at the end. How do you know? Because you have a choice. Linda was consumed by bitterness, and it poisoned her whole life. But you can choose differently. You can let go of the anger and build something new. I don't know if I can. You can, because you have to, for your daughter. Violet placed her hand on her belly. Grace, she whispered. I'm really going to name her Grace, after my mom's middle name. That's beautiful, Brooke said. Will you? Violet hesitated. I know I don't have the right to ask, and I know the contract says we can't contact you, but will you? When Grace is born, will you at least want to know that she's okay? Brooks looked at me, and I could see the question reflected in his eyes. I nodded slightly. Send one email. When she's born, let me know she's healthy. And then that's it. That's the only contact we'll have. You raise her, you love her, and you never tell her about any of this. She just needs to grow up knowing she's loved. Can you do that? Yes, Violet replied, her voice steady. I promise. Then we have a deal. 2 months later, I was at work when the email arrived. Subject line, she's here. Grace Ashford was born this morning at 6:47 a.m. She weighs 7 pounds 3 ounces, healthy and perfect. Thank you for everything. We'll honor our agreement. V. There was a single photo attached, a tiny baby with a shock of dark hair and a scrunched up red face. I showed Brooks that evening. He studied the photo for a long time, silent. She's beautiful, he finally said, his voice thick with emotion. She is. I hope Violet really does get therapy. I hope she becomes a good mom. Me too. He closed the laptop. Thank you, for what? For not leaving me when you found out, for standing by me through all of this, for helping me figure out the right thing to do. Brooks, I love you. I wasn't going to leave you for being a good person. I know, but a lot of people would have. This whole situation is insane. Yeah, I agreed. It really is. We were quiet for a moment, absorbing the weight of the conversation. Then Brooks said, I want to find Tyler. I looked up in surprise. Why? Because someone needs to tell him what his selfishness has cost. Catherine is dead. Linda is dead. Violet is traumatized. All because he couldn't be bothered to be a father. He needs to know. What good will that do? Probably none, but I need to say it. I need to look my brother in the eye and tell him he's a coward and a failure. Hey, I said, determination rising within me. Then let's go to Boston. 1 week later, we stood outside Tyler's expensive brownstone in a wealthy Boston neighborhood. Everything about the place screamed money and success. Tyler had done well for himself, built a whole perfect life while his first family suffered. Brooks rang the doorbell, and a woman answered. Jennifer, Tyler's second wife, she introduced herself, polished and pretty, with a smile that suggested a lifetime of never facing real hardship. "Can I help you?" she asked. "I'm here to see Tyler. I'm his brother." Her eyes widened. "Brooks, oh my goodness. Tyler said you two had lost touch. Come in, come in." We followed her into a house that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Hardwood floors, expensive art, designer furniture. "Tyler," Jennifer called up the stairs, "your brother is here." Tyler came down the stairs, and I saw Brooks tense next to me. The brothers looked alike, same dark hair, same build, but where Brooks's face was open and kind, Tyler's was sharp and calculating. "Brooks," Tyler said, surprise lacing his voice, "what are you doing here?" "We need to talk alone." Something in Brooks's tone made Jennifer take the hint. "Kids, let's go get ice cream. Give your father and uncle some privacy." Once they were gone, Tyler poured himself a scotch, not bothering to offer us any. "You came all this way. Must be important," he said, his tone casual. "Catherine tried to contact me before she died," Brooks stated without preamble. Tyler's face went blank. "Who?" "Don't," Brooks warned, his voice dangerously low. "Don't you dare pretend you don't know who your daughter was." "That girl wasn't my daughter. I signed away my rights. She was your daughter, your blood, your responsibility. And when she reached out to you, you rejected her. Do you have any idea what that did to her?" "What did you want me to do, Brooks? I was 25 years old with a kid I never wanted. I made a choice. I moved on." "You destroyed her," Brooks said, his voice trembling with emotion. "Your rejection sent her into depression. She died thinking her own father didn't love her. And her daughter, your granddaughter, grew up being taught to hate the Reed family because of what you did." "That's not my problem." "Not your problem? She was a child, Tyler, your child, and you threw her away like garbage." "I gave Linda money in the divorce. I fulfilled my legal obligations." "Legal obligations?" Brooks laughed bitterly. "Is that all you think fatherhood is? Writing a check? Catherine didn't need money. She needed a father. She needed someone to love her." "Well, she didn't get one. Life's tough." I watched as Brooks's hands clenched into fists. I had never seen him this angry. "You're a monster," Brooks said quietly. "You're a selfish, heartless monster, and I'm ashamed to be related to you." "Are you done?" Tyler asked, feigning boredom. "No, I want you to know that Catherine wrote me a letter before she died. She wanted to know if I would be the father you refused to be. And I never got that letter. I never had the chance to know her, but I know her daughter now, Violet, and her granddaughter, Grace. I'm going to make sure that little girl knows at least one Reed who isn't a complete piece of—" Tyler's face hardened. "You're helping them after what they did to you?" "Linda told me about the scam. He called me, right before she died. Wanted me to know she'd gotten revenge on the Reed family through you. I know about the scam. I know everything. And yes, I'm still helping them, because someone has to break this cycle of abandonment and revenge. Someone has to be better than you." "You're a fool," Tyler sneered. "Maybe, but I'm a fool who can sleep at night. Can you say the same?" For just a moment, I saw something flicker in Tyler's eyes. Guilt, regret, but it vanished in an instant, replaced by cold indifference. "Get out of my house," Tyler said. "Gladly, but I want you to know one more thing. Jennifer and your kids, they deserve to know the truth about you, about Catherine and Violet and Grace, about the family you abandoned." Tyler went pale. "You wouldn't? I would, and I will. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday your perfect little family is going to find out what kind of man you really are. And when they look at you with disgust and disappointment, remember this conversation. Remember that you could have been better. You just chose not to be." Brooks turned and walked out. I followed him, leaving Tyler standing alone in his lavish house, clutching his expensive scotch while his soul remained cheap and hollow. In the car, Brooks was visibly shaking. "Did I do the right thing?" he asked, uncertainty lacing his voice. "Yes," I replied firmly. He needed to hear that affirmation. Even if he didn't care, even if it didn't change anything, it was important to say it. I meant what I said about telling Jennifer and the kids. I know, but think carefully about that. Those kids are innocent in all this. Do you really want to blow up their lives? Brooks fell silent for a long time, contemplating the weight of his words. "No," he finally admitted. "No, I don't. They didn't do anything wrong. It's not their fault their father is who he is." "So, we let it go?" "We let it go," he confirmed, his voice steadying. "Tyler will have to live with his own conscience, or lack thereof." We drove to the airport and flew home, leaving Boston and Tyler behind us. The email arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, the subject line reading, "I'm breaking the rules." I almost deleted it without reading, but something compelled me to open it. "Dear Brooks and Cynthia, I know I promised to never contact you again after Grace was born. I know I'm violating our agreement, but I need you to know something. I've been in therapy for 5 years now, real therapy, the kind that forces you to confront all the ugly parts of yourself. And I've learned so much about why I did what I did, about the generational trauma and anger I inherited from my grandmother. But more than that, I've learned about Grace. Real Grace. Not just my daughter's name. The Grace you showed me when you had every right to destroy me. The Grace Brooks showed my grandmother on her deathbed. The Grace that broke the cycle of revenge and anger that had consumed my family for decades. I'm writing because Grace asked me yesterday where her money comes from, the trust fund that pays for her daycare, her doctor visits, and everything else. She's 5 now, old enough to ask questions. I told her the truth, though not all of it. She's too young for that, but I explained that a kind man named Brooks set up the fund because he wanted to ensure she had a good life. I told her that Brooks knew her great-grandmother and wanted to honor her memory. She asked if she could meet Brooks someday to say thank you. I told her probably not, that Brooks lives far away and is very busy. But I promised her that when she's older, I'll share the whole story, the good and the bad, the mistakes I made, and the kindness you showed. I don't expect you to respond to this email. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted you to know that your choice to be merciful instead of vengeful changed my life, changed my daughter's life, changed our entire family's legacy. Grace is happy. She's healthy, kind, funny, and smart. She's everything my mother and grandmother never got to be because they were too consumed by bitterness. And that's because of you. Thank you for everything, for giving me the chance to be better, for giving Grace a chance at a life without the poison of generational anger. I hope you're both well. I hope you're happy. You deserve every happiness in the world. With gratitude and respect, Violet. Attached were 3 photos, Grace at her 5th birthday party, blowing out candles. Grace on her first day of kindergarten, missing her 2 front teeth. Grace at a park, laughing joyfully on a swing set, her dark hair flying behind her. She had Tyler's eyes, Brooks's eyes. That evening, I showed Brooks the email. He read it twice, studying the photos for a long time. "She looks happy," he finally said, a hint of warmth in his voice. "She does. Do you think Violet really changed, or is this another manipulation?" I paused, choosing my words carefully. I think people can change if they want to badly enough, and I believe Violet wanted to change for her daughter. Should I respond? Do you want to? Brooks considered this for a moment. I want to, but I don't know what to say. Then maybe don't say anything just yet. Sit with it for a while. See how you feel in a few days. He nodded, but I noticed him looking at the photos again before bed. The next morning, and the morning after that, he finally typed out a response a week later. Dear Violet, thank you for the update and the photos. Grace is beautiful. I'm glad she's happy and healthy. I'm glad therapy has helped you. Breaking generational cycles is hard work, but it's worth it. You don't need to tell Grace about me, but if you do someday, tell her that I hoped she would have a good life. That's all I ever wanted. Take care of yourself and your daughter. Brooks. He showed me the message before sending it. Is it too cold? He asked. It's honest, I replied. That's better than cold or warm. It's real. He hit send. That could have been the end of the story, but life has a way of surprising you. 3 years later, we received another email, this time from an address we didn't recognize. Dear Uncle Brooks, my name is Grace Ashford. I'm 8 years old. My mom says you helped us a long time ago and that you're a good person. I'm writing because I'm doing a project at school about family trees. I know about my mom and my grandma Linda, who died before I was born, but my mom says my great-grandfather's name was Tyler Reed and he had a brother named Brooks Reed. That's you, right? So that makes you my great-great-uncle. Is that a thing? My teacher says it is. I don't expect you to write back if you don't want to. My mom says you're very private, but I wanted you to know that I'm grateful for what you did for us. My mom says without you, our lives would be very different. I'm in 3rd grade. I like reading, art, and animals. I want to be a veterinarian when I grow up. I have a pet hamster named Cinnamon. If you ever want to write back, I'd like to hear about what you do and what you're like. But if you don't, I understand. Thank you for helping my mom and me. Your great-great-niece, Grace. The email was clearly written by a child, simple, honest, with a photo attached of a little girl holding a hamster. Brooks stared at the screen for a long time. What are you thinking? I asked. I'm thinking, he said slowly, that I told Tyler someday his perfect family would find out the truth. But maybe this is better. Maybe instead of destroying Tyler's family, I get to know this one, the family he threw away. You want to respond? Is that crazy? After everything that happened, I reflected on it all. Violet's manipulation, Linda's quest for revenge, and the immense pain that had been caused. Yet, amidst those thoughts, I couldn't shake the image of Grace, an innocent child simply wanting to understand her roots. I don't think it's crazy. I think it's human. You have a chance to know your niece, even if the relationship is complicated. That's worth something. Brooks nodded slowly, absorbing his words. Then he began to type. Dear Grace, yes, I'm your great-great-uncle. You're right, that's a real thing. I'd be happy to answer your questions. I work with computers and I enjoy hiking and reading, just like you. I don't have any pets right now, but I used to have a dog named Biscuit when I was your age. It's nice to meet you, Grace. Your mother is right. Without the choices we all made years ago, your life would be very different. I'm glad you're doing well. Your great-great-uncle, Brooks. P.S. Cinnamon is a great name for a hamster. He showed me the email before sending it. Too much? Not enough? It's perfect, I assured him. And so began their correspondence. Nothing intense, just occasional emails exchanged between a middle-aged man and a curious child. Grace would share tales of her school and friends, while Brooks recounted stories from his work and childhood. They never delved into the past, avoiding the betrayal and pain. Instead, they focused on building something new. Violet never inserted herself into the emails, never asked for anything. She simply allowed her daughter to have this small connection to a family that had once rejected her mother and grandmother. 2 years after that first email from Grace, Brooks and I were having coffee on our porch when he said, I want to meet her. Grace, yes, I know it's complicated. I understand it means reopening old wounds. But she's 10 now, and she sometimes asks if we could meet. I think I'd like to. Have you talked to Violet about this? I sent her an email yesterday. She said she's open to it if you're comfortable. Me, Cynthia? You're the one who went through hell because of this whole situation. If you're not okay with me having a relationship with Grace, I'll understand. I reflected on the young woman I had been, standing in my kitchen, listening to my husband cry over a daughter that didn't exist. I thought about the pain, betrayal, and anger, but I also considered Grace, the concept of Grace, and the child herself. I think, I said slowly, that holding on to anger about the past won't change it, but choosing compassion for the future might change everything. So that's a yes. That's a yes. Let's meet Grace. 1 month later, Violet and Grace drove up from Portland. We arranged to meet at a neutral location, a park where Grace could play if things got awkward. I recognized Violet immediately, though she had changed. She looked older, more tired, but also more at peace. And holding her hand was a beautiful little girl with dark, curly hair and curious eyes. "Grace," Violet said gently, "this is your Uncle Brooks and his wife Cynthia." Great, Uncle," Grace corrected with a shy smile. Hi, Grace," Brooks said, his voice thick with emotion. "It's really nice to finally meet you. Do you want to see my hamster?" "I brought her," Grace exclaimed, holding up a small carrier. "I'd love to," Brooks replied. As Brooks and Grace walked toward a bench to admire the hamster, Violet and I stood in an uncomfortable silence. "Thank you," she finally said, for giving her this chance." "She's a sweet kid," I replied neutrally. "She is, and she's that way because of the choices you and Brooks made. If you'd destroyed me back then, if you'd taken everything, I don't know who I would have become, or who she would have become. You did the work, Violet. You chose to be better because you gave me the opportunity to choose. That's more than I deserved." We watched as Brooks showed Grace something on his phone, both of them laughing. Grace's laughter was bright and free, unburdened by the weight of the past. "I'm truly sorry," Violet said quietly, "for everything I did. Every lie, every manipulation. I was so angry at the world, and I took it out on the wrong person. Brooks didn't deserve what I put him through. Neither did you." "No," I agreed. "We didn't." "Can you ever forgive me?" I looked at her, really looked at her. This wasn't the desperate, angry young woman who had scammed my husband. This was a mother trying to build a better life for her child, attempting to break the cycle. "I already have," I said, realizing it was true. "I forgave you a long time ago. Holding on to anger was only hurting me." Violet's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. But Violet, if you ever lie to him again, if you ever try to manipulate him or use Grace to get something from him, I will end you. Do you understand?" She nodded. "I understand, and I won't, I promise." We spent 2 hours at the park. Grace shared her drawings with us and animatedly spoke about her school experiences. In turn, Brooks told her stories about her family history, the good parts, carefully omitting any mention of Tyler. They made plans to exchange emails more frequently, perhaps even video chat from time to time. When it was time to leave, Grace wrapped her arms around Brooks in a tight hug. "Thank you for meeting me," she said earnestly, "and for helping my mom and me. You're the best great-great-uncle ever." "You're the best great-great-niece ever," Brooks replied, his voice thick with emotion. As we watched them drive away, Brooks took my hand. "I never thought this would be how the story ended," he said, "with a relationship with the child of the woman who scammed me." "Life is weird like that," I agreed. "Do you think we did the right thing, letting her into our lives?" I think I said that we chose love over hate, grace over revenge, and that's always the right choice. Brooks pulled me close. "I love you. Thank you for going on this crazy journey with me." "Always," I promised. Standing there in the parking lot, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson, I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's about choosing to build something beautiful out of the ashes of betrayal.